Welcome to day 18 of the 30-day holiday video challenge. Today, we're making a pumpkin and toasted marshmallow mocha cake. Hi there, foodie friends. My name is Carly and welcome to my channel, Adventures in Yum. Before we get into today's video, I have a passion for learning about creating and trying new foods, drinks, and especially desserts. If you want to join me on my yummy adventures, and especially during this challenge, then please make sure to hit subscribe and turn on notifications so that you'll know when I upload new videos every week. Now, let's dive into today's video. First, we're going to whip up the filling for this cake, which is a simple dark chocolate espresso ganache. For this ganache, we're using a 2-to-1 ratio of chocolate to cream. We're starting by adding 1 cup or about 237 milliliters of heavy whipping cream to a saucepan. We then add 1 tablespoon of ground espresso, stir that a little, and place it over medium or medium-high heat. Once it reaches a simmer, we remove it from the stove and pour into a fine mesh strainer placed over a bowl containing 2 cups or about 336 grams of dark chocolate chips. We make sure that all of the dark chocolate gets covered by the cream and let that sit for about 2 minutes. After 2 minutes, we're mixing the chocolate and cream together until smooth. If not all the chocolate melts, you can heat it in the microwave for about 15 to 30 seconds to help the chocolate finish melting. Once it's all smooth, we cover it with some plastic wrap and press it onto the top of the ganache to prevent a skin from forming. Let that set in the refrigerator for at least a couple of hours. When getting ready to stack the cake, we also want to make sure to allow this mixture to come to room temperature, so keep that in mind. Second, we're assembling the cake. We add a dollop of buttercream to act as the glue to keep the cake on the cake board. I'm using my Swiss meringue buttercream recipe, which is linked in this video and in the description. Then we add one of our pumpkin cake layers, which my recipe video is also linked in this video and in the description. I don't always do this, but sometimes I like to put a thin layer of buttercream along the top of the cake. We're then using a piping bag fitted with a Wilton 1/8 tip to pipe a nice thick ring of buttercream along the inner perimeter of the cake layer. If you have a softer filling, you may need to pipe 2 rings, but the filling we're using today isn't too thin, so we're good with just 1. We then add some of our room temperature ganache and use an offset spatula to smooth it into an even layer. Next, we add some marshmallow fluff and use an offset spatula to smooth that into an even layer as well. We carefully use our kitchen torch to toast the top of the marshmallow fluff, and we have to be very careful not to melt the ring of buttercream while doing this. We then repeat this process by adding a second cake layer, ring of buttercream, ganache, marshmallow fluff, toast that fluff, and the last layer of cake. Once we place our top layer of cake, we add some more buttercream and use an offset spatula to spread it into a thin, even layer on the outside of the cake. After that's done, we pop that into the refrigerator for at least 30 minutes to chill. Third, we're working on our edible decorations. We're making 2 different types, so our first one is edible leaves. We add some Ghirardelli vanilla melting wafers to a microwave-safe bowl and then heat that in short increments in the microwave and stir in between until all of the wafers are completely melted. Once fully melted, we pour them onto a piece of parchment paper and use an offset spatula to smooth them into a thin, even layer. Once they harden, we're using mini leaf cutters to cut our leaf shapes. These are a little bit tricky because you have to carefully press along the inside perimeter of the cookie cutter to release the candy melt piece. You'll definitely have some broken ones, but through trial and error, we're going to wind up with a bunch of leaves and then place them on a sheet tray. Next, we're using a scribe tool like you see here to draw veins on the leaves and make them look more realistic. And then we're using a large food brush to brush away the excess candy melts. We then mix food gel colors with some sort of extract. Here I used lemon extract because it's what I had on hand. We use a food brush to paint the colors onto the leaves and then we let them set for at least a few hours to let them dry and have less chance of the color coming off while placing the leaves on the cake. I decided to use the traditional colors found during fall like brown, orange, that gorgeous deep red that's my absolute favorite during this time of year, and a little bit of yellow. This technique is basically the exact same way that I painted the components of the recent apple basket cake I made. If you haven't seen that video yet, then you need to make sure to check it out because I think it's one of my top favorite cakes that I've ever made. I'll link that video here and in the description. Our second kind of topper are some adorable acorns that I've seen on Pinterest and on Instagram, so I finally decided to give them a try. These are super simple. We just need to take a mini Nilla wafer cookie, add a tiny bit of our leftover vanilla melts, and then immediately place a Hershey's Kiss on the melts. I'm using a dark chocolate kiss here. Try not to add too much of the melt because we don't want to see them between the cookie and the kiss. Once those are set, which should happen pretty quickly, we add a very tiny dots of vanilla melts to the top of the cookie and place a mini chocolate chip on top of that. And that's all there is to making these super cute acorns. And now we're ready to put it all together. Before we decorate this cake, if you're getting value out of this video, then please make sure to hit that like button, click subscribe, and ring that bell to be notified about my latest video. We're spreading more Swiss meringue buttercream all over the cake and then using a cake comb to both smooth the buttercream and give it this cool design on the side. Once we're as happy as we can be with our smooth buttercream, we can start the fun part, decorating. We have a piping bag fitted with a Wilton 1M piping tip and filled with some Swiss meringue buttercream. We start at the base and pipe a diagonal line of rosettes across the front of the cake. We then continue on to the top of the cake and keep piping rosettes until we're about 3/4 or so around the top of the cake. Next, we take a piping bag fitted with a Wilton 4B tip and filled with some more buttercream, and we add little dollops of buttercream on either side of the rosettes to add some dimension. I decided to go monochromatic, or all the same color, with this buttercream because I wanted our decorations to really pop. We're now placing our acorns onto the buttercream swirls both on the top and down the cascade in front. Once we're happy with our acorns, we're placing our leaves around the buttercream swirls and dollops as well. As always, have fun with this part because decorating should always be fun. And once we're happy with the placement of our leaves, we're adding a little sprinkle of gold sugar sprinkles on top of the buttercream swirls and dollops. There we have our finished fall cake filled with scrumptious pumpkin, mocha, and toasted marshmallow flavors. If you're wondering where this cake went, it was my neighbor's birthday, so her husband helped me surprise her with it. They loved the look and taste of this cake. You can also find this pumpkin and toasted marshmallow mocha cake on my website adventuresinyum.net. The link is in the description below. Make sure to come back tomorrow for day 19 where we'll be starting our 12 days of Christmas. If you're interested in checking out some of the products that I used in this video, then please make sure to check out the video description below for their Amazon links. Thank you so much for joining me today, foodie friends. I'll see you next time for another yummy adventure.